I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm about to go bankrupt in Disney Dreamlight Valley. This week's premium shop was so good with the Agrabah walls, the fountain, and the well skin that it nearly took all of my moonstones. I loved all of these items when I covered the leaks from the initial update, and I knew that they were going to put them in the shop at the same time. I was hoping that they wouldn't, but I just had this feeling that they were going to do it all together, and they did. I had to spend like, I don't know, 15 or 20,000 moonstones because my recommended was so good this week too. But brilliant items means that we can do a really fun build with them, and that is exactly what we're going to do today. My plan for this video is to kind of integrate Jasmine and Aladdin's house with the desert palace and create some sort of courtyard. I'm not doing a Jasmine's courtyard with Jasmine's fountain, but I think we're going to do some sort of like maybe parks inspired courtyard where the actual palace that we're going to build and elaborate on, we're going to use the palace walls to actually kind of extend that desert palace and use the tower that we got with Jasmine and Aladdin to actually make it feel like a much bigger structure. So the concept is that's sort of like maybe a dark ride or something in Disney, and then this kind of like space outside of it is going to be a courtyard. I know what I'm doing. It's going to be fun. It's not going to be too long, and it should be a pretty easy build. So we're going to do that over in the Glittering Dunes. I'm very excited. I hope that you enjoy it. Let's just get straight into it, and I will see you on the other side. So this is the kind of spot that I picked over in the Glittering Dunes. I don't really have that much over here. I do have an Agrabah Market themed build, which I have changed the pathing for because I needed the main street pathing elsewhere. But I thought this whole area is kind of Aladdin themed anyway, so I'm going to do the build in this section, probably coming down here as well. It is a bit of an awkward shape because this is kind of like a rectangle. It has a little odd bit kind of like jutting out just by here. And then it does slim down by here, but there's also two entrances up here and here, which I always find a little bit confusing because they're so close together. So I'm not that bothered if we end up blocking one off, which we might end up doing. But you'll see that I have my usual kind of like resources up here. I like to lay everything out in sort of a mood board. I don't actually have that many for this build. I don't think I'm going to use that much. My main focus is the new premium shop item. So obviously the Agrabah walls. And then, of course, the Morocco Pavilion Fountain with the well skin. And I think we'll be able to make something nice if we kind of like combine them all together. I'm hoping so. I think it's going to be a fun little build. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab... Where is it? Where is it? I'm going to grab the Desert Palace house. And then I'm going to pop that sort of like... not right at the back of this area, but just a couple of squares forward so I can fit some of the trees behind here. I'm going to actually move it just a little bit more forward. We might take a second or two to adjust where it sits centrally, because if we centered it to, let's say, this section, if it wants to move my mouse, if we center it to this section, it would live kind of there. But then if we run a path down here, you'll see that the path will end up being very close to this wall and a huge gap here. So I'm thinking we're going to try and do it around there. I know that we're not going to be able to get it centered perfectly to this section because of the build that I want to do with the walls, but we'll try our best. We'll see what we can do. So as you can see, it's a couple tiles forward, which is great. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start bringing in some of these walls. Now I think I'm going to do a corner piece. That's an end piece. So I'm going to swap it for... Oh, I don't have a corner piece down. Let me grab it instead. I thought I saved one of those. Here we go. Agrabah Tower. So I was thinking maybe of like fitting them either side of this, kind of like creating our own mini Agrabah Palace. Now, I know that we obviously do have the main Agrabah Palace, but these walls have kind of like opened up the freedom to work with this. And especially because we've got Jasmine and Aladdin's house that also matches that style. If I bring this down as well, where I'm going to place this is right in front of the door to try and make it look like some sort of extension, as if the Desert Palace house like comes off the back of it. I think that looks really fun. I've seen it done a couple of times. I am very sorry. I cannot remember who did it first. It might have been Anya, but I will fact check that and I will put it in the description. I did see somebody do this and I thought it looked really cool, so I'm gonna use this idea as well. I hope that's okay. But we're gonna build on it a little bit with these walls and try and make all of this come together as kind of like one sort of palace, which I think will be fun. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna bring this as far over as I can without going up into the Oasis, because That will then allow me to kind of like guess and work out where I need the center to be, especially because if I can get it as close to being centered to this section as possible, it will help when we do our pathing. So I'm going to also grab now the end wall, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put that in sort of like there. But you'll see they're really close together now, so I do actually want to have at least one of the little size walls. So I'm going to bring that down, and we're going to move this across, and we're going to see if we can fit in one of those. Perfect. That fits. It clips a little bit into the rocks by here, but that's nothing we can't work with. So I'm going to move that corner over. We're going to rotate this one all the way around, and then we're just going to do exactly the same on this side. And I'm going to rotate that just so we don't have a repeating pattern of brick. And then we've kind of got what almost looks like a compound, I guess, but it's starting to take shape already because it works perfectly with this building, and then it works perfectly with this one just in front of it. So you'll see here that that's as far left as we can go, but it's not a million miles off the center. I'm happy with that. I'm happier than if it was like over here. So we're just going to have to keep on building this out. And because we used a corner piece on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate that around, and I'm going to grab one of the larger size walls, pop that on as well, because I know that kind of comes towards the back of this. And then I can just, once again, put an end piece on here, just like that. So I don't really need a back on it for the time being, because it's just not necessary. You can't see through the wall anyway. And actually, I just had a little thought. So I can still access this Desert Palace house. It's exactly the same on the front and on the back. So if I rotate it 180 degrees, I can still access that front door to go in by going around here. That's a great tip. You're welcome. And it looks exactly the same. So I'm just going to do exactly the same on the other side. I'm not really bothered about blocking off this section down here. We can't decorate down here. I never really go down there. I've done the quests, I believe, that do kind of like use this area. If you've not done those quests yet, you will probably need to keep that open. But let me just see. We might even be able to skirt around the edge of the wall. I think that you should be fine to go around the edge of the wall, so it shouldn't impact that entrance too much. And then if we take a quick look, see, that already looks great. Doesn't that look great? It took like 2 seconds to do, and that already looks fantastic. So I'm also going to grab this lovely little like decorative archway that came in the premium shop bundle as well. And I'm going to pop that. I think I'm going to pop that exactly in front of the doors. Like, I just want this whole compound to feel really enclosed. Like, it's really regal, but it's like locked down. We're safe. It's giving safety. It's giving safety. So we're also going to take one of those smaller walls from that side and one from that side, just so we don't have the repeating pattern on either side. And then I'm going to place one of the end caps on here. Now, this is ever so slightly out of line with that, but that's actually why I like it, because it adds even more depth by having kind of like 4 on either side, and they're not totally in line, which just helps give it that illusion. And I don't need to wall this section off for any reason, because it's kind of just like, it's almost like a forced perspective effect if you're in a Disney park. So we're going with that. You can, of course, add in those sort of like walls just in these gaps if you want, or you can place trees in there. You can do whatever you like, but for me, I think this is fine. And that is pretty much this section of the build. I'm happy with how that looks. I actually thought that it was gonna be a bit more complicated than that, but it turns out that it's pretty easy. And these walls are so malleable. They're so easy to work with. I do wish that we had some more variations, because obviously we did only get the 6 pieces, but you know, you got to take what you got. Okay, let's move on to the next part. So next up, I want to create some sort of seating area. Well, not specifically seating area, but I want to create some sort of courtyard effect here with the Morocco Pavilion Fountain. Now, as you know, I'm going to say the line, I love the parks, just in case you didn't know. So my concept for this build and this area is kind of like an Aladdin themed land at Walt Disney World, but it's going to have some seating. And The logic that I had was this was some sort of dark ride that you go into, kind of like a Kukuram, I don't know, something like that. Some sort of dark ride that you go into, and this was kind of like just the land around it. So that's what we're going with. That's the concept. But I am going to place this Morocco Pavilion Fountain down. This is slightly expensive in the premium shop for what it is. The actual fountain itself doesn't have that much interactivity, I guess. It doesn't have that much movement. So we are going to add some fountain tiles to give it a little bit more life. But it is a little bit more expensive because it's licensed from the park. So those tend to be a little bit more expensive in the shop. But I do love it. I love how it turned out. I think it would work both with this and Jasmine's Courtyard Fountain, this build. So you can kind of like choose as you like. I think the Corona Fountain would also look pretty good here. Anyway, let me place that down. And then what we're going to do is we are going to... Let me think. We're going to grab the fountain tiles first. No, we're not. We're going to move this down a little bit because I need to get the placement right. Because there's no point in me putting the fountain tiles under until we've kind of like gotten the placement down. So aside from that, I do want to grab the other item that we got from the Aladdin realm. Let me filter that because I forgot to put it down. Aladdin, apply. So it is those palm trees, the palm planters. So I was thinking of having them like sort of directly in front of the building, maybe about there. And then I'm going to rotate it just so we've got like some angles going on with these shrubs because they're diagonal. You want one going that way, one going that way to kind of like lead you in. So that kind of works for me. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I know that these are really big, but I think they add a little bit of grandeur to the build. So that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to use them, but I think I might actually just bring them down. Let me bring them down just another tile. I wish that we could turn the grid on. I really do. I really do wish that we could turn the grid on. And then I can kind of like place this fountain sort of about there, and then I can grab another two. And then at least I can have exactly the same spacing. Because for this section, I do want it to be, although it's going to be rectangular, I want it to at least be even. So this just needs to come down one tile. That can come down one tile. And then I think with doing that, everything now nearly looks in line. See, this is why I need a grid. This is why I need a grid on the floor. Everything looks just about in line there for our sort of like courtyard vibe. Which is great, which means I can now go through back to pathing, if you will, and I can grab this Main Street USA path, which is my favorite. I will say I absolutely adore this path. I do think that we could do with many more paths in the game. I would love to see even more because I feel like there's only a couple that are sort of like, sort of warm in tone. Everything else is pretty cool, like the asphalt, the loose gravel, the Ancients path, the snowy brick, like everything's quite cool in tone. So this is really only one of the warm ones, I suppose. I'm just going to go around now and kind of like start adding a little bit of decoration with the path around this fountain. I do wish that we had a fill feature as well. That would make life so much easier. But alas, we do not. So you're going to have to enjoy this this little slow play. This little slow play with me. Because otherwise I could just draw a big border and then fill the whole thing in. But one day, friends. At the Emerald City, no less. All right, so that's kind of the vibe I was thinking. We might need to tweak it a little bit. Thinking maybe bring that down to 4, and then I can just pop those planters out one, so they're not sitting directly on the path. Because the only thing I don't love about the castle walls, and a couple of items that clip in this way, is that like, I mean, it looks okay. You kind of like have the sand mound where the item clips. It picks up the substrate of the biome that you're in, but it doesn't pick up a path. So with sand, it works. With other stuff, not so much. So I will accept it on this occasion. But Usually that is kind of something that I would prefer to see using the path for as well. Like that would just add a little bit of realism to it for me. I'm just going to extend those paths we did just so they like wrap around that tree perfectly. And the lighting at this time is lovely, but it's a little bit too shadowy at the moment. It's casting some super shadow. So I'm just going to come out and I'm going to change my time. We're just going to go back a couple of hours. Too many hours. There we go. You will admire my outfit, I'm sure. So with this bit, let me just replicate this exactly down here as well, which means that we do need to bump those back. There we go. Just like that. And then I can just bring this out to match. So I did that nice decoration for no reason, apparently, but that's okay. We persevere. So around this fountain, instead of just having shrubs like down the sides, I was thinking of doing like a slight curve just for fun. So I've got, which bush have I got? I think this is the Peaceful Meadow bush. Now, this one kind of like matched the color closest of these. Now, it seems as though Gameloft have used for this palm planter the trees that we got with Storybook Vale, or the shrubs that we got with Storybook Vale, because they are, I don't know if they're bugged. I don't think they're bugged, but you'll see the texture is nothing like the one we got in the base game. This yellow one, and obviously the red and the blue ones, would look so much better if it had proper texture, but you'll see the palm planter seems to have that as well. So I don't know what happened. So I'm going to use one of the base game ones, and then I'm just going to kind of like, let's see, maybe here. And then I'm just going to kind of like work out some sort of curve just to make it look as though it's got a little bit of softness to it. That is not lined up correctly. I think that looks pretty nice. That looks pretty good. So you can see that I just need to extend this tile. So I'll just do that there. And then that means I will need to extend them on this side as well. And then I can just duplicate and bring that across. Let me just see if those line up. I do have to come out of furniture mode every now and again because I'm still having a little bug where it sometimes doesn't save and it crashes when I come out of furniture mode, and then I lose everything, which is a shame, but hopefully we'll get a hot fix or some sort of fix one day. All right, there and there. Are they equal? No, I have a slightly better curve on the right. Let me see what's going on with that. Is it just those two end pieces? I think that it is. So that looks good. Happy with that. That feels like very natural. The spacing seems even on both sides. Would be even better if we have a grid to tell, but nevertheless. So I think that is pretty much done, which means we can bring in these water fountains. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate it. And then I'm only going off the jet of water. So I'm going to put it at the end of each star. Just while the water is kind of like spraying out, just so I can see it. This is quite difficult to like get across on video, but I'm kind of just putting it on the point of every single star. Just like that. So you'll see they're all coming up at different times at the moment, but when you go into a building and come back out, they resync and they kind of like all match up the time. But it just adds a little bit of interest to this fountain, because even though I love it, the water just kind of like dribbling over the edge does feel a little bit sad. So at least those fountain tiles can sit underneath and give us a little bit of kineticism. And I can get rid of that, and I'm going to bring in somewhere over here. I've got a parks bench because it wouldn't be an Oscar's Cozy Corner build without one of these parks benches. And you best bet that I'm going to get the recyclers in as well. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. I'm just looking at that and I'm wondering if I could go back one more tile on both sides. Like, it feels a tiny bit close. So I'm thinking maybe I'll just bump everything back on both sides by one tile. We may need to adjust the path to accommodate You'll see that I've got a little bit of clip in there. So I'll just do one on that side, one on that side before we disappear into a rock. And then I can do exactly the same thing here. Just go back one single tile. And you might be looking at all the empty space. We are just going to fill that with foliage at the end. It's my favorite part because you still have like some gaps towards the end, like places like this, for example. Then we throw down a bunch of foliage and suddenly it all comes together and I'm like, oh, amazing, amazing. But that looks good. That looks good. That feels like a lovely courtyard, doesn't it? A lovely seating area. And it doesn't really matter to me that we kind of like can't get, because we can get up to this one, that we can't get to this one because they both lead to the same place exactly there anyway, so I'm not that bothered. But I'm going to bring in the park's banners as well. Now, I was unsure about bringing these in, but I think they're going to work just fine. So I'm going to rotate it twice and pop it like just behind this shrub. Just about there. And the reason I think they look good is they use the jasmine teal. So like the walls have red accents. Jasmine and Aladdin's house has a little red accent. Well, maybe pink, but these feel like they fit. They've got the teal on them. They've got the red. They've got the gold. Like everything just works. I think if they were a different color, it wouldn't fit. But look at that. That just fits, right? It just fits. And, you know, I don't need an excuse to bring in the park's banners, but if they work that well, I'm happy to oblige. I'm happy to oblige. Let me see. All right, that was easy. They placed just in the right spot. So that means we've got like a nice little central square here, which is what I was going for. And then I think the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in some of these. Okay, let me check what these are called before I say it. Where are they? When did I get these? I thought they were pretty recent, but maybe I got them. No, they are pretty recent. Are they not coming up? I thought they were. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. It is a brazier. Because I was going to say that and I was like, saying I'm going to get my braziers out. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Maybe it's brazier. Maybe it's brazier and not brazier. Because I don't own a brazier. So I would not be getting one of those out. But as these are lights, they only have a tiny, tiny little glow. But I'm just going to tuck them. I'm just going to tuck them like in the shrubs. I'm going to tuck the brazier in the bush. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to sneak them kind of like here, 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 and here. Unsure yet if I want to put one next to the chair. I don't want it to feel too much. Like I feel like I'm going to disappear into the Oasis from this camera angle. But you know, I feel like 4 works and I feel like 6... If I can get you a real example. I feel like 6, having them right next to the bench, feels like too much. So yeah, I'm going to stick with 4 and then I'll get rid of these 2. I think that's looking good. I think this is looking and feeling good. The only other thing that I was thinking of popping down was maybe some of these lights. Maybe right outside the house, like one here, one here. So it's like right there at the entrance. And then I'm wondering if we put one sort of like here and here on both sides of the sort of like seating area. So I could put one here and here. I think that's just one tile in. Yes, it is. So we'll just do the same on this side. And then I can grab the rotated one. We can pop it there and there. Just to add a little bit more light, a little bit more vibrancy. You know, we kind of got like a water and fire theme going on. And then I was wondering maybe just outside the house, like around this section, if I just pop some of these down, just to kind of like mitigate a little bit of that clipping. Something just like that. I think that works. I'm happy with that for now. I might revisit that little section, but other than that, I think that looks pretty good. And our seating courtyard has already taken shape. So yeah, let's move on to the next section. All right, so this little bit now down here is where I was thinking of putting the new well skin. And my goodness, is this well skin pretty. Skin, not skink. This is in fact a well skin, but wow, is it nice. I was really happy to see this when the leaks initially came out. I didn't actually think that they were going to do anything like this. I know that they've been redoing Goofy stalls, But because we didn't get the Storybook Vale well skin at any point, sort of like in Scrooge's or anything, I wasn't sure if they were going to actually do well skins. So I wasn't sure that they were going to offer it. But this one is just so fitting and it works so well with this kind of like little land that we're going for. So I'm just going to place that sort of like... So yeah, sort of about there, because I'm looking at this little bit here and I want to put some walls here. So I was going to kind of like centralize that as best I could. So I think it's best if I grab this archway, because like I kind of wanted it almost as like an entrance to a land, as I said. So I do that there and then I grab one of the end pieces. We can see where it ends up sitting. Just like that, which I think is fun, because it does block it off a little bit, and then we can use some of the dune trees to kind of like fill in those gaps so you can't really walk past them. And then looking at that, that allows me to grab, if I actually grab a bit of pathing, I can grab a perfectly central line from the middle of that all the way up to the well. Great, so that means I just have to move the well to there. I was only one tile out. Can't complain about that. So while I'm here, I'm just going to extend these little bits of pathing. These little bits of pathing just out to the left and the right, bring them up to the well. And even though we can't go underneath the well with the pathing, unfortunately, don't know why. Seems like, I don't know, seems like a strange... I'm guessing it's a feature, not a bug, but I would love to be able to just go under the well with the pathing instead of having kind of like a square sort of around it, you know. But I think we can get pretty close on the back and the front at least. So we'll do that. We'll get pretty close on the back and the front. And then yeah, we can work with that. I think that looks fun, because every time I spawn into this biome now, I'm going to have like this view for me, which is great. I love this. Love, love, love. So what I was thinking was, because we've got this like curved aspect here, let's keep all of this pathing kind of contained as well. And let's do some more curving. So I'm going to drop, this might take a little bit of experimentation, but I'm going to drop one here. Maybe, let's see, where would you be happiest to be curved? Okay, there. I've said this before, but the default of these shrubs is 3x3. If you rotate it 4 times, it ends up knocking to a 4x4. So it gives you a slightly different angle of the shrub, which can sometimes help depending on sort of like the application of it, if you will. But that kind of looks like a curve. So I'm just going to duplicate that on the other side just a second. And you will note that some things I haven't done, which I usually do, and I kind of like go on about doing, is rotating these shrubs. So I am going to go back and rotate them a couple of times, just because I don't want the pattern to be identical on all of them, because that's something my eye catches. Like I can see it here, they're 2 exactly the same ones. So we will go back through and rotate some of those. But for now, let's continue making our circle around this well. We might even need to bring it out. We're definitely going to need at least 2 path width here. So let me find the center of that, so I know where the top of my circle is, I should say. And then I can just kind of experiment and see if we can find something that works. But because I rotated that into a 4x4 on this side, I need to reflect it over here. And let me see again, where's the center of the well? One here and one possibly here. If you are doing this yourself, it might take a little bit of playing around to try and get correct. You'll see that I've got a little bit of a gap there, which I'm not loving. So I'm wondering if I rotate that back to a 3x3. And what if I have these two as the 4x4? That could work. No, the gap looks way too big on those. So let me go back. Everything apart. All right, maybe I just come down 1 tile then. I don't know. Let me see. Well, that feels a little bit tight around the well. That feels a little bit tight. So maybe I just go out 2. Maybe we just undo that and we go out 2. And then I come back to here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hmm. Hmm. No, I think, you know what? I think that we had it nearly right the first time. I think that we had it nearly right the first time. So let me just undo all of that work and we go back to exactly exactly what we had before those couple of minutes. You know, I can deal with that tiny little gap there. That's fine. I can manage. Let me. You're out of place though. At least you look out of place, which is interesting. Right. Aha. You look out of place because in a circle, obviously, this one I changed to a 4x4, so this one needs to become a 4x4. That's why that looked a little bit odd. So let me... There we go. Okay, let me duplicate that on this side. Duplicate that one. And then I can bring that in to that spot. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. And then I just need to tweak the path just a tiny bit because there's some clipping going on. Just get rid of that one because you won't see it. But these ones at the back do just need a little bit of love and some extra path. Just like that. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. It definitely feels like, it definitely feels intentional, definitely feels circular. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to bring these shrubs down just a little bit, maybe to here. Yeah, maybe to here. And then I'm thinking maybe I could bring in the recyclers in that part because I was toying with having the recyclers here. But I didn't kind of want to ruin the aspect of it, even though I know it's kind of like meant to be parksy. I didn't want to ruin that visual aspect. So I'm thinking, actually, I could pop these in like right in between a set of shrubs. And then they would almost disappear in a way. I put them just off the path. Just something like that. Just wondering if these shrubs need a little bit of breathing room. No, I don't think they do. In answer to that question. But you do need a bit of extra path just there. Cool. I think that looks good. And then, yeah, like I said, I can just kind of like bring some of this shrubbery down. Like I just want it to feel really natural. Like I know we're in the desert, but you know, it's kind of like an oasis in the desert. And I want it to be like, look, these flower bushes should not be able to grow here. And yet, look, we are so rich and wealthy in our lovely Agrabah Palace remake that we can keep them alive. But it's looking good from above. It's looking good from above. And then what I'll do is I'll just like to hide them in amongst those shrubs. We'll just put some more on the other side as well. And then I would say we could even maybe bring this back. Sort of like to there. That looks good. And then it looks good through this angle as well. I'm wondering if maybe I rotate the well. I don't know. I was thinking maybe of getting a better aspect of it, but look, it's being a pain when I do that. It wants to throw the path off. I was just thinking like you could have it so it looks really nice looking through this, but then the aspect of looking up there doesn't look so good, but I can't decide whether I should have it like going up there or whether I should have it going down here. I'm honestly leaning towards this way, which I didn't think I would be. I thought I would want it up there. But this would be nice if you were walking into a land like this, you know, to see that well skin just like that. So I think I'm going to go with that because then that feels like kind of like a right angle, which is nice. So we do have a little bit of space around here and then we have some around the well. So I did keep some of the snake heads. I've got 2 of them. And I was thinking like, I know these are like Jafar adjacent, but they could kind of like go right behind these bins just to kind of like detract away from the recyclers again, you know, or to encourage people to recycle because people will be looking at them. So I just thought one on either side kind of like greets you as you walk into the land, so you get a little aspect of it. The camera really does love to lock in Eternity Isle. It gets caught on so many things. But as with the snakes, I thought we could put maybe some flames in front of them. You know, just to make it feel even more intimidating. Sort of like right next to the snake head, I was thinking. Just something like that. So it's kind of like, look, its ears are on fire. And then we'll just do exactly the same thing. Got to get that rotation on both sides. Just so it sets the tone for the land and it kind of like makes it feel all as one. All as one. Now, just around the well, I was thinking I could bring in some of these little underbrush pieces that we got with Eternity Isle because they are small enough. Now, I was thinking maybe doing one on each corner. And then they really, really do love these big fan palms that we have. Now, I just don't know if they're going to be a little bit too big. You know, I fear that they're going to be slightly too large and in charge for this. Because it looks a little bit much, right? Which is a shame. But I'm wondering, actually, wait, what if I swap that? What if I bring these in and then I use that spot for those? I guess that doesn't look too bad. But maybe I try the other version of the underbrush that we got. The wild tangle plant, because that's a little bit smaller, actually. Yeah, that feels a little bit smaller. I just wanted it to feel like kind of luxurious around this little bit. And I don't like to use flowers personally because I use the vacuum to pick things up, or the vacuum to grab things. And I end up always like sucking up the flowers that I've used in a build, which is why I prefer not to use them, because then at least they can stay down or they can go into my inventory. But when I use them as decor, I feel like I'm always like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, you know? So yeah, I think that looks, so far, I think that looks pretty good. The only other thing that I realized that I've forgotten to use is these sand fountains. And I was thinking of maybe putting them like just sort of either side of here. Just kind of like that, you know? So they frame this little courtyard, give some height, give some movement. I think that looks good. So I think we're ready to move on to foliage. All right, I've just reminded myself to go in and do some rotation. So I'm just going to do that like super quickly. As I've said, I always bang on about it. I like to rotate stuff to make sure that it's not sort of like repeating too often. It does bug me when I see repeating patterns. So if this is your first time watching one of my videos, you'll probably see this kind of like going forward in the future as well. But it just helps break the whole thing up. And I just like hit the keyboard or hit my mouse a couple of times until I'm happy with what I've done. And I do it for everything. So like, especially when using foliage, I make sure that I like rotate it both forwards and backwards just to make sure, and then you know at least you're not getting any sort of like repeating patterns. And I do exactly the same thing with the walls, like especially the castle walls. I like to rotate those every so often. I do it with the hedges as well, like every couple of hedges or every other hedge I'll make sure to rotate it, same as I did with these, making sure that they kind of like face the same way. It just makes it feel a little bit more real. Now I do need to come out of this because I have not done that in a while, and my fear is that it's not saved. But it all looks okay. And of course, it's about to start raining, because why wouldn't it start raining in this game? I feel like it's rained in this game for the past 48 hours straight. I mean, literally the past 48 hours straight. So what I'm going to do is, this is some of the foliage that I picked for this space. Nothing too major, but I'm gonna pop, I think I'm just gonna pop like some stuff down randomly. I like to go through like singularly, one by one, with all of the different items, and then I just kind of like fill in gap afterwards. I just find it easier to do one specific item first, and then at least I can go through afterwards with the other items, and then we gradually kind of like get smaller and smaller. So I usually start with trees, but because I'm not doing too many trees in this area, although I do need to do some around the palace, I tend to start with trees, go to like shrubs, then to underbrush, and then like down to the really small stuff. But it just gives me a little bit of flexibility with sort of like dropping stuff in. So what I am going to do is I'm going to grab these dune trees. So they're different sizes. There's 2 different sizes, and I'm going to place, I think I'm going to place a smaller one like in this quote unquote courtyard, just right next to the palace. I know you can't get a decent sense of it here, but it will add some depth. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the really tall ones, and then I'm going to place those kind of like just randomly along the back of it to kind of give us some sort of canopy. Now, I did say earlier on that we could run past this to get to the house, or we could run past this to get down to that section down there. I'm going to have to check whether that is still the case from doing this, but hopefully we'll still be able to access the house at the very least. But if you do need to access this area down here, maybe just push them forward a little bit or leave one of them out. I don't know, whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. But you'll see it just gives me like a nice little canopy over the top. And it makes it just feel a little bit more alive, especially from like this angle. It just gives you those palms just right off in the distance, which is what I love. All right, back to the actual foliage. I do think this tree is bugged, this one, because when you go to trees, it's actually called large. Where is it? Tall acacia tree or acacia. Oh, I tell you what, maybe my game was okay, I'm wrong. There's 3 versions of it, but one of them is really tiny, even though it's called tall. So I take that back. It's not bugged. Well, maybe it is, I don't know, but it's very cute, don't get me wrong. It's super cute, but I was just like, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. It says it's tall. So I'm just going to spot some of the gaps right now, and we're going to drop some of these trees in. You know, shade is always handy in a theme park, especially one in Florida. But I'm wondering... No, that works. That works okay. I'm going to pop one sort of like in this big gap that we have right here. Maybe even another one. Sort of like pushing up towards the wall. I think we can fit one in this space. That would be really nice. And then I think that's it for those. They're spread out pretty nicely, and I'm going to put one of the sort of like these acacia trees in that section, if I can fit it, because it's got kind of a strange footprint. Let me see. Play ball, friend. Play ball. It did go fully like solid color then, so I know that it does fit some way somehow. Maybe it just doesn't want to. Maybe it just doesn't want to be my friend today. Okay, I admit defeat. Jeez. This one has a tiny footprint, so we'll go with this one instead. This one is just a 2x2, which is nice. I don't know if you would see these trees in this sort of environment in general. I don't know. I just picked some foliage that I liked. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these do not go. But, you know, the more you know. The more you know. Let me see if I can find another place for this, because I really do love this, like, cute one. I was thinking maybe here. You seem like the perfect spot for that one. And I'll just have a quick look around. Maybe I can fit it in front of the mining node, because at least I'll double check. I do like to keep my mining nodes free as much as possible. So if I come down here, at least I can access it from that side. I'm sure that it'll be fine. I'm sure that it will be absolutely fine. And then maybe we can bring in some of the tiny ones. Just because these are adorable. So maybe we just pop it in. It's just a 2x2. So maybe one there. Where else? Where else have we got a little gap that we could fill? Maybe right there. Possibly at the back down here. Not too much. And then, you know what? I'm thinking maybe I'm just going to put in a shrub. Just so the through line of the shrubs carries like all the way through on every section of the path. That looks cute. And then we can bring in some more of these cacti. Cactuses? Cacti? I'm not sure. I feel like it's cacti. Whatever they are, they're not fungi. Okay, I'm losing it. As you can tell, this has been quite the recording for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drop some more of these in various little places wherever I can fit them, just to kind of give it that desert sort of feel, you know. And then I do want to drop in some of the other ones because the other ones are actually my absolute favorites. So I need to make sure that I've got some space for them as well. But for now, we can continue filling the space with these. And kind of just like that. And then these, sorry, this is what I was talking about. These ones are kind of like my favorite for giving that deserty feel. And these ones are only a 2x2, so they can slot into lots of different places, which is nice. You can really just kind of like fill space with these. You can drop one in here. Maybe another one out the back. Although they don't seem to like being placed. They kind of like are jumping all over the place. Maybe one just underneath the tree. That'd be cute. Another little one sort of like here. And one there. And then maybe one towards the back. And then let's slot one in. Let's pop one there. And then we just need to do this little side. 1, 2, and then maybe 3. And then I can grab just the slightly taller version. This one is a 3x3 just to fill in any sort of like any extra gaps. This one is a little bit harder to place just due to its size. So we do need to be careful with that one, but I'm sure that I can find a home for it. Let's move you back a little bit. And then at least I can grab that and we can kind of like, no, you still don't want to play it? You do. There you go. And I'll rotate you like that. Amazing. That looks good. Any space, any space, any space. Anyone for any more? I was hoping to get one in there and I can. Excellent. All right. I think that looks good. And you know what? I think that we might be done. We used all of the materials at our disposal and everything looks just how I wanted it to look. So I'm gonna wait for it to stop raining. And then yeah, I think I'll give you a little tour. We'll do a little tour. I'm wondering actually, am I missing? Could I fit these in here? Let me move my little tree. Will you sit happily in this area or no? I don't think it will. So we're gonna roll with it. We are going to roll with it. And yeah, let's do a little tour. All right, so this is kind of like the entrance to this area, this land, whatever you want to call it. But I just love the aspect of being able to see the well through this archway. I just think it works really nicely. The bins, they're pretty hidden, the recyclers. So I think that's something that Disney would do. You know, they like to kind of like blend them with the environment. We do have those snakes either side just to add a bit of like drama as if you're coming into this area sort of like on your first stop around the park, and then you can do a full circle kind of like around this well. Gives a little bit of walking time as well, just a little bit of interest, but I love that it's actually circular. I am looking forward to the day that we get curved paths because that will help much more. Oh look, we've already got Jasmine and Aladdin here as well. Maybe they're doing a little meet and greet. Maybe they're doing a little meet and greet. Should we go over and take a picture? Hello. You know, I just need a Disney photographer. A little photo pass, something like that. Oh, getting a bit close, Aladdin, but okay. Anyway, on with the tour. If we carry on, we've got like the Morocco fountain. You can see all of those fountains underneath the fountain tiles. They're in motion now and they are synchronized. Just makes it feel a little bit more alive. We'll go around this way as to not disturb Jasmine and Aladdin. And then as we walk up to their house, you can see that we've got all like the flames, all of the gold ornaments. Everything just looks really nice and it feels real, like natural, I guess, because we've used so many flower bushes and because we've used so much foliage. But you can see all of the filling in that we did. Just because we had those gaps before we did that, as soon as you start dropping in foliage, it definitely starts to sort of like come together. If I walk back towards the well and then spin the camera around, you can see from this angle what we did with the walls and what we did kind of like with the house. It just all comes together. The double houses, the walls, it makes it feel like a huge palace. And then this is kind of like the palace courtyard. I just love how this turned out. So I hope that you did too. It's been a pretty fun build and not too difficult either. I was pretty happy with this one. All right, gang, that is it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I knew when I saw these items in the premium shop, well, when I saw them in the leaks, I knew that I was going to do a build with them in the glittering dunes, and I think we pulled it off. I think it was easy enough to do. I think that it looks really effective. Using the walls in combination with the palace and Jasmine and Aladdin's house just makes it feel like a mini Agrabah palace, which I love. I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know down in the comments below. If you didn't, you can let me know, but maybe don't. With that being said, I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.